Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me is supposed to talk about a very unique looking game coming out here soon on Steam. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm Steve Shimataro. We're going to be talking about Brave Escape today. Almost said the wrong name. Yeah, it's a co-op platformer, 2D pixel art.
No, perfect, perfect. So to kind of get us kind of let's paint the scene there here, right? So Brave Escape, 2D pixel art platformer. What kind of either what was like the inspiration or kind of what's your like elevator pitch of like what you're doing in this platformer?
So we wanted to make kind of what I've labeled it as is a true co-op experience rather than like a game where you play together. Um, a lot of games are, labeled as co-op, but they're really just kind of you're playing with your friend. So you think of, a beat 'em up or like a shoot 'em up or something like that, or a sports game. It's usually you're just playing alongside your friend, and there's not a whole lot of cooperation actually going on. We wanted to make a game where literally almost every aspect of the game requires communication, teamwork, or else you really can't get through it. So it does require two people to be played. So I think you're starting to see more of these titles, like with It Takes Two, Bread and Fred, and there's plenty of others. But we tried to make a game similar to that, and that's kind of our philosophy behind Brave Escape.
Yeah, that was kind of my initial kind of thought. I noticed too. And you just kind of made that comment. I was like, oh yeah, it reminds me of those kind of where it's kind of because you need like there is truth of like it seems like a lot of co-op games. It's like either you don't really need a person, just makes it easier, or we had to like just make it harder for the sake of two. So this act of it kind of being two more distinct in that way does stand out modern times. Was there any concern immediately of kind of obviously now needing two people and all that fun stuff tied to both the development of the game and also practical like sales and realities of that?
Yeah, so we look at it kind of as a positive and a negative, blessing and a curse. It's a blessing that it's unique, so it's less competition. And I think there is a huge market for co-op games. I know, I play friends with games with friends almost every night, and we're always looking for something new. As long as it's two-player, we'll usually give it a try. So that is a huge benefit to us, I think. But then also there's people who it's a struggle for them to find someone to, hey, will you play this game with me? I don't know. How much does it cost? Just the fact that you have to convince two people, um, there is that challenge there. But I think the benefits definitely outweigh the negatives there for us. And we just really enjoy co-op games. So we're making something that not only do we think other people want to play, but it's a game that we enjoy playing ourselves.
No, that's fair. And it's always interesting because like that's always this thing of like obviously that you kind of make this thing that naturally becomes this unique selling point, but obviously there's the other half of those realities I always kind of think about. So what stood out to me, I think, kind of when I first saw it was it gives me this very I don't know this kind of thing. But was great. Indiana Jones with Robot Vibe was kind of my initial kind of thing that kind of visually caught me. I was kind of curious, kind of either was it Indiana Jones or what kind of visual things you guys pulled from kind of when thinking of the style of this?
Yeah, Indiana Jones, I mean, that's the one we definitely hear the most. I've heard Woody, for Woody from Toy Story, which I thought was really funny. We really just wanted to make a classic generic character. This being our first game here, we weren't like super into the world building and like character design. I would say more so the robot we had a lot more, fun and inspiration from. But the game didn't originally start with the we call him Colin is the human and Floyd is the robot, their names. It didn't start like that. It was just two guys. I think we called the game, and I used to teach high school, so I was still teaching at this point. I think we called it Adventure Bros, and it was like two Indiana Jones dudes just running around. There was one rope that they could toss back and forth, and it was a mess. Um, but yeah, it really ended up developing into okay, well, we had all these tools that the two characters would pass back and forth, but it got kind of tricky because sometimes you'd toss a tool in a hole or it would get lost somewhere and you'd forget to grab it. So we thought, okay, what is it? What if we just tied each tool to one character? That way you can't lose it. And then from there, it's like, well, what if the tool is the character? So then we started thinking about a robot, and that's kind of how Floyd became a thing. And as far as inspiration for character, people usually immediately think like Wally. I think more recent, but if you were born in the 80s, there was this movie called Short Circuit. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I've heard of I've not seen it, but I've definitely like, either seen screens or heard of this film.
So there's a character called Johnny Five, which that was kind of my original inspiration for it. So every once in a while, you'll hear people say, and there's a quote from the movie, "Johnny Five is alive." And so when I hear that, I know they've seen the movie and they got the they got my inspiration. They guessed right. So
No, that is good. And once you said Johnny Five, that is definitely I've heard it before. Yeah, I would never have placed the Johnny Five until you kind of went backwards to the much. That is very fun on that one. See, that's interesting. Kind of how there was that few because I think Wally I kind of thought of. I also thought of Rob the like original NES thing. They kind of
oh,
with
for sure.
yeah
The
that's
strangest one I've heard is the characters from Little Mermaid. They're like the little souls. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've even
I
seen
don't
that.
know if I know that on top of my head. Okay.
It's a very strange reference, but I've heard quite a few things.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. So kind of jumping down that route. Because obviously you now as we're talking, you decided to put down like the robot kind of as the second character, right? So kind of now we have all these nice nuances of it being a robot for the second player. What kind of to you kind of stood out either during it or kind of now in the current iteration of the game as it being a robot and because of that like what kind of either what are kind of maybe your favorite things that you decided the robot player can now do or kind of how it changed the kind of mechanics of the game.
Yeah, so again, yeah, the robot was really just a need to fix a bunch of technical problems that we were having. But as far as like my favorite things, there's quite a few things that he can do. I think my favorite thing that he's got like this magnet tool. I think that's probably my favorite level. So how the game kind of flows is you start out and there's the basic tools of the player has a rope and the robot can boost. And that's kind of the main mechanics of the game. So one guy boosts you up high and then you lift the other guy up. But then after you beat the first world, it opens up into all these unique worlds, and each one gives you a unique ability per world. So let's say in the electricity cave, you have a magnet that you can drag platforms. In the lava world, you can freeze different things. So if there's like a fireball, you can freeze it temporarily, use that to jump on to get higher. The jungle cave has like a hook shot where he can turn into a swinging platform. So it is kind of one-sided where the robot does have most of the unique abilities in the game. And so the reason being, because we get a lot of feedback, is like, well, why does the robot get to do everything cool? And my simplest answer is because it's fun. We never really thought about, yeah, we never really thought about like, oh, let's make sure. I mean, I shouldn't say we never thought about it because we definitely talked about it quite a bit, but we arrived at this decision basically because we were like, well, the game is fun. So I think it's okay that one character is balanced a little differently. Because again, the original vision was like, well, one character is more of platformy and the other is more assisting the guy platforming. And so the simple answer was to everyone who always asked about balance is like, well, it's fun. Have you played it yet? Like, it's just a really fun game. So
Get when you're testing either internally or externally or what you've seen, do you kind of get it where the human more ends up being like that second player syndrome of the like when you're playing the Mario and someone could be something else? Do you kind of get that problem at all when you're kind of seeing people's experience?
I don't, but I do want to be aware that I may have some like bias since I designed everything, and I might think like, no, this is perfect. But I can't. I've heard people like watching the trailer. Like that's a pretty big concern. Like, well, hey, this seems kind of one balance, and not a ton of talk, but it's probably the biggest piece of criticism that we've seen. And again, my answer is always like, but have you played it? Like when you play it, people are laughing, they're having fun, and it never ever feels like one player is has all the responsibility. Maybe in a couple screens, but that's on one screen, one player might have more responsibility, and the other screen, the other player might. So it really just depends. I actually enjoy playing Colin, the human, more because I like the more platforming aspect of it um, a little bit more than the assisting. So
Wait, so that's interesting. So you do. So why? So you saying so you prefer the human? Do you find? Because to me, the other thing I would think of is with the robot kind of like him having all of the like powers and kind of too. It's almost like this level of stress kind of put on that player.
yeah,
Does that difference seem like a reflective what I kind of experienced and saw?
um, it again, it depends on each level. So even despite, it's not despite, so on top of all the different tools that Floyd will have throughout the game, there's these unique events we call them, where there's like 5 or 6 levels where we just totally change the rules. So there's one where Floyd actually takes control of a snake. And think of like the old Nokia phone snake game, where you're collecting the apples and getting longer. So it's kind of, we tried to do like a co-op spin on that, where one player's controlling a snake and the other players, traveling on him and collecting the things to, basically their keys to a lock that'll open the door, and then you can progress through the next level. And in that case, Colin, the human, has a lot more stress because as the snake, you can't actually die from enemies or spikes unless you run into a wall. So it's Colin the one who has all the stress, who's jumping, trying to dodge things while he's riding along the snake. So I think we tried to balance it pretty good. Um,
Oh,
and
that's
again, I'm gonna have all the bias in the world and say,
yeah.
oh, this seems perfect. Um, I think I'm right.
That's always the thing you have to be as a developer. You have to be like open to feedback, but always that like extra level of confidence with uncertainty of being like, when in doubt, though, I'm the developer. I'm correct. Like you almost need that level built in just get any decision
Yeah,
out there.
it's funny. My philosophy on things like playtesting and all that and getting feedback has changed tremendously because I don't think anyone knows your game better than you do, right? So you always want to be open to criticism, but at the same time, understand that some people have only seen your game maybe for 60 seconds in a trailer. Some people haven't even played it and they're willing to give criticism. It's like, uh, I'll listen to it. I'll try to, digest it as much as I can. But at the end of the day, I think the developer knows their game better than anyone.
That see, and I would agree with you. Besides those being those edge cases of like, there's always those multiplayer games, and I feel like we could find random people who play them that like know them better than human beings on Earth. But I think those are exceptions to that rule. I think fundamentally those are exceptions.
For sure. And sometimes, I mean, as developers, we can be wrong. So you need to be open to that too. So,
So as we're talking, obviously, right now it is the tail end of the year. It says currently the game comes out Steam Q1. Is that still kind of what you're thinking for the timeline?
yes, so we're working hard. Basically, we have a lot of story stuff to wrap up. So we have some like, intro cutscenes and some dialogue and, the epilogue that we're still trying to flesh out. But I think there's 239. Those are all 239 levels have been designed and the art's done and they've been set up and they're running good. So as far as can you play the game and it's a full capacity right now, you would just have zero story and you know any of that dialogue. So that's what we're going to be wrapping up for the next 2 months. Hopefully we can get it done the 18th. But we're going to be working hard, especially over the holiday, to try and get that date done.
If I make sure right, 259 levels. Is that the number you said?
239.
239 level. So how does like so? I mean, I have a clarify too. How big is the team? When we're saying there's 239 levels, you guys are making sure all play through that. Like, how many of you are there?
Yeah, so we have a core team of 3 of us. So I myself am the designer. So I'm taking care of all the level design, enemies and all that stuff. We have a programmer and an artist. And then we have a guy who's been working contract for us. He's actually a really good friend of mine who's doing sound and music. Um, we're hoping, if this is successful, he'd definitely be someone that we'd like to bring on full time. And then we have another friend of mine that I've actually met through this process. Um, that's helping me with story. He's a writer, so making sure that I don't, aren't, I'm a little not too confident in my own dialogue skills that I have someone that, uh, can actually check it over and make sure it's
Everyone
on
needs
and
to
listen.
know their weakness. I think is the thing that's most valid to say when you're making a game. You know your strengths, and you
Yeah,
also need to know your
I don't want to
weaknesses.
pull a George Lucas here, where my dialogue is just cringe and terrible.
But that's so. What I was getting at too, also. So 239 like level. So like, what does that look like from your point of view? Kind of, are you? Is it fair to say in all of them you have in some capacity, I assume, touched or messed within that level?
Yeah, all level design, yeah, has been my responsibility. Um,
Do you kind of keep both the like balance and sense of making levels both unique enough, but also like making the way I'm really curious about is like how to make it unique enough, but also then make sure that like the challenge is a fair level. Like I can imagine if I'm spitting out 239 of these things, at some point either I'm making some of them way too easy or some of them obnoxiously hard just because it's easy by spitting these out.
Yeah, I mean, playtesting is the best way to get that done, is having someone who, hasn't seen the level, doesn't know all the tricks. And, as a designer, I know exactly the path that needs to be taken to, get through the level. I know the optimal jump times, optimal jump heights, and all that. So to get fresh eyes on a level and watch them play through it, usually within the first couple deaths, if there's a problem, I can tell right away what needs to be done, whether, a ceiling needs to be lowered or raised or a spike needs to be moved. Um, yeah, you can usually tell pretty quick by just watching, some
Mm.
people getting some fresh eyes on it.
So in that scenario, then like, what's the level like you're like controlling it? Like, is there cases where like you legitimately just had to like move a spike over a few pixels and now like the level flowed, or like
Oh yeah,
so you had some of those that were at least on the easier end of fixing it in quotes.
yeah. I mean, sometimes I just trash a level, because it's just okay. This idea isn't gonna work. It either doesn't flow well from the previous level, like or I use the word disjointed, where you have like a certain mechanic or idea like in the first half, and then you have a total separate like mechanic or idea in the second half. Trying to think of an example, can't come up with something.
So
Let's
I
say
was like,
you were trying to test the players, I don't know, timing with the boost in the first half,
okay,
and in the second half you were trying to do like to to test their ability by using a tool or something like that. Um, to me, I would call that level disjointed. Like you kind of want to build the levels where you teach something in the first half and that you continue to build on that same element throughout the level. Sometimes that happens and I'm like, okay, there's no saving this level. But yeah, a lot of times it's just moving a spike or, one unit, sometimes 2 units. So
so that's it's interesting. I was feel it's always like I'm always the new always the new ones of like I one of my favorite parts a lot of times of development are like the tail end part where you just if you get the time where you get to do the like squish the 80 bug part. And like to me, I'm always it's also satisfying when you get like the do those, but like some of those bugs are just those like 2 second ones. I'm curious on the opposite end. Then, is there what do you have any good examples of like some rule or lesson you pulled from during development of like you thought some level or system worked really well and then you handed it off to players and you guys had to change it a bunch?
let me think. Um, Man, it's been so long since we're at like the end of development here. So like none of this stuff is fresh. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that we were like, oh, this is bad. We had our first play test, I don't know, it's probably at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago at this point. And it was a very, very rough cut of like our first 10 levels. And man, those were bad. Watching people like hit their head on every jump and just die like 100 times before beating a level, and it's supposed to be like the intro. I'm like, oh, this is really bad. Thankfully, we're way past that. We learned a lot, quite a bit. Um, I've grown as a designer and just kind of understanding what makes our game special. And the more levels we get, the more it's like I've started to develop a process and you know a feel and a personality for each of my levels. So
I was gonna say I would assume, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is it fair to say that you have probably gotten faster at getting to the end product now? Like of like here's the end of the level. Like I like probably your first pass. I feel like has to be a lot closer than probably and they used to be when you started this experience.
I don't know if faster is the right way. More effective, and maybe time's part of that. Um, but you know what? Probably. I think that's fair to say. Is getting a little quicker at it for sure. I think I understand what makes after watching hours and hours of people playing my game. What players like and what they don't. What makes a good level, what doesn't.
No,
What's fair, what's not.
I was gonna say that seems very fair. I'm curious. So obviously you guys are a co-op based game. Is there any, and I can't tell from your Steam, is there any want or maybe potential in the future of like supporting that like Steam the like not local co-op features?
So we do have local. We
Right.
do have local co-op. We do have Steam online, and then funny enough, um, we just took part in Steam Next Fest in October, and there was someone who left a comment about, can we have two players on one keyboard? So we decided to implement that. So you can set the controls for each character on one keyboard, just in case that's all a player had. And then we decided, like, what if we did the same for controller? Because we've always thought about it, but thought it would probably be too difficult. So we made kind of a button layout where you control Colin with the left stick and Floyd with the right stick. You jump with the triggers. Um, kind of finagled it away to be able to be played with one person, and
Interesting.
it's extremely difficult.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems like because a lot of this seems very timing based.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I do not suggest anyone this be their first experience with the game. Like, oh, I'm going to hop into this game and play it single player. That's, you'll have a miserable time. But I will tell you, we've almost beaten every level as a development team by ourselves using that method. We're very close. I think we have like, I don't know, we have like 20 or less levels to beat
That
probably.
See, now I'm just picturing that being an interesting like challenge mode built in there. Like, is there some way for you guys to? There's no real way to
So
track it. Obviously, is the problem.
yeah, as someone who's obviously like hundreds and hundreds of hours in the game, for me, it was almost like playing the game over again for the first time. It's a ton of fun because it's like it's really really difficult, and when you can pull it off, it just feels really good.
Yeah, that's one of those that's all field up. That sounds like okay. Now that's a very interesting thought. And now I have future thoughts, but no. That's very interesting. So yeah, the game we've obviously been talking here is Brave Escape. You are part of Hit Start Studios. Obviously, as you said, game comes out beginning of next year. Do you have plans after that? Do you guys plan to keep working on the game, kind of work on something in the future, or are you just waiting and seeing the response?
Yeah, so a lot of it's going to be waiting and seeing the response. Like, if it's a dud, we're not going to continue to work on it for people who will never see it. But the goal, hopefully, and we've had great feedback so far, is if it does well, we do want to port to consoles. So I think it'd be a great Switch game, great on Xbox, PlayStation. And then we do have not very concrete plans, but we do want to create like like a free content like bonus world kind of deal to kind of extend the story a little bit and extend the challenge. So because right now, yeah, we have a lot of collectibles in the game, and they're fun to get. So obviously, a platformer game, getting collectible is usually not like a reward. It's more of a challenge. Like, can you get all these? Like certain, so you've beaten the game. Can you beat the game while also collecting all these, coins? In our game, it's like a stick of RAM. It's a memory stick, and that kind of incorporates into the story a little bit. Um, but we don't have like a really great reward for 100%. So our plans would be to have a free content update post release that we could reward the players with, if they get enough collectibles to unlock,
No,
the bonus world.
that sounds absolutely. And also, what's nice is you always get a little window there of before players actually get to all those collectibles. Hopefully.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Hopefully, we'll see.
no,
I'm sure
that's
some people will have them, in a week. I'm sure.
I was saying, give that first weekend somehow that you'll find the one player that figured out all of it real easily. But as I said, the game is Brave Escape. Is there anything that you feel like we have missed on the game that you feel like we should talk about more or shout out kind of for people looking forward?
We have a demo out. It's I know some people are kind of put off by demos, but if you are trying to find something to play with a friend, We'd love you to give it a try. It's a really long demo. It's the complete first world. So you'd have all 23, 24 levels plus an extra 5 bonus hidden levels. So almost 30 levels to play for free. It's about an hour to 2 hours. Would love you guys to give it a try. We have a Discord. Would love feedback. And Steam does allow reviews on demo pages now. So if you give it a try and you enjoy your time, we'd love to hear your feedback.
I was gonna say that demo review stuff. That's brand new. I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah, I think they implemented that in August.
yeah, that's.
So by that time, thousands of people have already played the demo.
Oh no, no, of course it's too late for you. That'd be like too easy otherwise. But it's interesting the sub like we talk about like Steam reviews where people want because the things behind like it pushes your thing up and all that. Now there's gonna be this sub thing of being like, please go wishlist my game, but go rate my demo. Like it's gonna be an extra little step to people. I'm just picturing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know. Everyone has their own different opinion on what, boosts the Steam algorithm. It seems majority wish list based. I don't know if the demo actually boosts your visibility like the reviews. Um, but at the end of the day, if someone goes on your page and sees positive reviews, that's a positive thing.
Yeah, it's probably one of those that like helps with the edge case versus some like wish list fundamentally changing the whole picture. So that's my
Right,
guess
yeah,
at
this
least.
is more indirect. Like you're going to see more wish lists on a game that's reviewed more positively.
It's good old snowball effect of economics of trying to sell games here. Uh, but yeah, I want to say again, thank you for talking to me today, and best of luck as you and the team are finishing up here for the next few months and getting ready to release the game.
All right, appreciate it, Mike. This was fun. Thanks for having me.